Hi friends, welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another episode of the Agora models of British SAS Jeep. Let's get started. Welcome back, my friends, to Scale Model Kit Review Studio. This is Steve. Up next is the Agora models British SAS Jeep. I am working on pack number 3, and in pack number 3 I received 8 more stages, stage 14 through 22. So 14 consists of fitting the front axle, 15 is building the differential, 16 is fitting the front shock absorber, 17 is fitting the steering gear, 18 fitting the front wheel hubs, 19 fitting the rear left leaf spring, 20 fitting the right rear leaf spring, 21 fitting the rear axle, and 22 fitting the rear shock absorber. So in this, I'm going to go ahead and show you some tips and tricks on building this. I'll be identifying the parts by nomenclature for you, and I'll also show you some suggestions for your build. And this is stuff I discovered when I built the D'Agostini Jeep, or the fan home Jeep that they came out with. So this is very similar to that. So with that, let's get started on stage 14. And welcome back. Before I begin building stage 14, as a reminder, you can download the instructions on the Agora website. You can either view them online or download them as you choose. So we are working on fitting the front axle, and here's all the parts in the bag. Let's get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. And of course, we do have the front axle here. One solid piece made of metal. 2 of the front clips, they call them. The U-bolts, they are made of plastic, CM and MH screws. And I'll bring over the chassis here of the Jeep. This is the front of the chassis, turned up like that with the springs on top. Line that up because we're going to be putting in the axle. So the axle will actually insert through here, much like that right there. And our U-joints are going to go on there too. We're going to put our little spring item here. It's going to be on the other side actually, because that's going to mount to that. And our U-joints are going to go on there and mount our spring, our clip, to the back of the spring up there. Okay, so I'll show you that. And slide this over just a little bit there. And you can see we're going to put an HM screw through all of that onto the axle. So we're going to line the axle up on the bottom there, and the spring clip on top. And we're going to put our screw through it all the way. And we'll tighten that down. We'll leave that loose a little bit for now, but that's what that looks like there. Okay, very easy to do. And of course, we're going to line up the back here. We're going to do the other side with the smaller spring clip, and I believe that's going to go like that on the other side. Same thing, we're going to put a HM screw on that side. 3-in-1 oil used again. And I'm going to leave them loose just for a little bit. That's what that looks like there. You can see how that looks. And they look the same on the ends there, and that's how you want it to be. Okay, so next we're going to put hook up this spring clip to the back of the spring, and you can see these little items here will go up against it. And CM screws will go in on each side. I'll turn this around so I can see it better. I'm pressing down on the spring. You don't want it to be completely tight because you want to have movement. That looks good there. Now I'll go ahead and tighten down those HM screws. Next we'll go ahead and put in the U-joints, and they're going to be a press fit, so we'll work with that. I'll show you that in a second. Now, working with these plastic U-joints, you don't want to use oil to help them along, to help push them through, because you definitely want to have something to help push them through. So what I would recommend is a little bit of water and dishwashing soap, and go ahead and dip your parts into that. That way this will help lubricate the U-joint and you can push it through easier. Okay. Some tweezers to help push it through. There we go. And there you go. So that was real simple to do, using the dishwashing soap to get that U-joint to go through all the way. And after it dries, you can go ahead and add a little super glue to those points to help hold it in place a little bit later. Also, to help you along, go ahead and loosen these back up so that way the spring won't interfere with those C-clips. That will help you get them inserted a little bit better. Alright, so all 4 U-bolts are installed. That's what they look like there. And I went ahead and tightened down those screws on the springs. And later on I'll go in there and I'll super glue those so they don't move. But there you go. Very nice. So that completes stage 14. Let's head over and get started on stage 15. Here's stage 15 parts, building the differential. Let's get a closer look. CM and FM screws. We have the front differential, top half and bottom half. We also have the cover for the differential. That is made of plastic. The other stuff is made of metal. We also have the front transmission shaft, drive shaft, and some service plugs for the differential. First thing I'm going to do is put the plug on the differential cover, and you're going to grab the smaller plug that you got with this, and we're just going to press fit it in place. And of course I mangled my plug trying to use the pliers on it, so I would not recommend that. Maybe put some also put some water and soap on that to help it along. But that's there. Alright, so I brought over the axle. Now, just to kind of point out something to you, after building the other Jeep, and you can see that on my channel, I discovered that these points right here on the axle where your screws go through are the weakest point of these axles. And if you put too much weight on the kit, they will break inside of your differential and cause your axle to collapse. So we can go ahead and reinforce this area with some super glue to help that out along for later on. So what you do here is we take our axle and we slide it in from underneath, and you can see how it inserts just like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some super glue on each side of that hole just to beef it up. And I'm going to use my Loctite gel type and just put a lot there, okay, on each side. And then I'm going to slide it in carefully from underneath. Just like that. Okay. Hold that in place for a little while. And 2 CM screws will secure that down. Oops. And use some oil on that screw. And that super glue is going to reinforce this axle, hopefully preventing it from snapping later on. Okay, so that's good there. Next we'll put this drive shaft in and we'll run it from the differential up to the axle, just like that. And that looks good there. How that looks, it's not sagging. Okay. Now we'll take our differential cover and we're going to run that underneath and over that lug, just like that. I'm going to go ahead and put more super glue on these races, on these points, before I put that down on top. And that will just help beef up everything. Just like that. And we'll put our 2 screws into that. Those are the FM screws. They're very large screws. Support the bottom so I don't put any undue pressure on the axle, and put my screws in. Once again, using my WWII PH1 screwdriver, the larger one, and oil on the screw. And there you go, they are tight. So that's how that looks there. Looks great. And the rear axle will be much the same way. You'll find out that the rear axle is actually a little more fragile than the front axle. So it's going to be important that we beef it up like we did with this one with the super glue. So that's that. And so that completes stage 15. Let's get started on stage 16. Up next, go ahead and assemble stage 16. Stage 16 is the front shock absorbers. We'll go ahead and assemble those. Looks like we receive a canteen with this also. Let's get a closer look at the parts. Alright, we have FM and PM screws. We have this British canteen with strap. and buckle. It's very nice, made of plastic. And our shock absorber parts, they are both made of metal here, along with the springs for it. Let's get started. Mount the top of our shock to the chassis here with a PM screw. I did oil it. Alright, next we'll put our spring into the housing. See that? And then I'll put my upper shock, the bottom of the shock, and line that up with the spring perch. I already have the FM screw inserted there, and we'll tighten that down. And I did use a little bit of oil on that. That's that, and the bottom one. There we go. And just to kind of check the functionality of it, looks good. I'll go ahead and do the other side and I'll be right back. Okay, the other side is installed and it functions just great. That completes stage 16. Let's head over and get started on stage 17. Stage 17 will be fitting the steering gear, and here's the parts for that. Let's get a closer look. Alright, DM, IM, JM, and KM screws. Now we have our gearbox, our steering gearbox there, made of metal, along with the gear itself, and some rods for the steering. Looks like we received the compass for this. Okay, so we're going to fit this gear into the steering box here. Make sure that it's kind of configured like that with the flat edge facing you as you insert this into the gearbox, just like that. Okay. And I'm going to turn it, okay, like that, to where we have our flat edge there. Now I'm going to take my pinion arm and I'm going to line that up with that flat edge, just like that. JM screw will go into that. And the JM screw has a flange on it. There we go. Leave the screw a little bit loose so it has enough flexibility to turn. You don't want to crank it down. Next we'll grab over this rod. We want to take the one that has the smaller hole on it. We're going to line that up. Next we'll go ahead and install this rod on the gearbox. We'll insert our screw from the back side here. And we'll leave it a little loose. Next we'll take this rod here, we're going to insert it into that hole. We're going to put that screw into it, which is, this was an IM screw before. Now we're using a DM screw on this one. There we go. Next I went ahead and added some Vaseline to the gears, and we're going to mount this to the chassis next. 3 DM screws were used to mount the gearbox to the chassis, one up here and 2 on the other side. Right there and right there. I tightened them all down after they were all started first. Now we're going to go ahead and route our arms to the front of the axle, and it's going to go over that little shaft right there. I'm going to put some Vaseline on it, and that's how it should look. And we'll just get this to go a little straight there, just like that, by turning the gearbox. You can see how that looks there. And a KM screw will hold all that down. And I find it's just easier for these screws to use the larger PH1 screwdriver for this. We'll tighten that down. We'll leave it a little loose so it can rotate. There we go. And we'll make sure it rotates fine. It does. Great. Okay. So the key here for your steering is lubricate everything, put some Vaseline on areas, 3-in-1 oil, and you're good to go. And lastly, for this stage, we're going to assemble this compass here. It's just going to be press fit, it looks like. So you have that large tab sticking out on the front. It's going to line up with the circle sticking out on the other one. And we're going to press fit both of those together. And that is together there. And that completes our steering system. And that completes stage 17. Let's get started on stage 18. Stage 18, we're going to fit the front wheel hubs. That's these right here. Let's get a closer look. LM, MM, and IM screws. Here's our front hub. All metal. Very nice. And some of our steering rods, all made of metal. First step, I'm going to use this steering linkage right here, the shorter one. And you'll note that there's a large hole and a smaller hole. We're going to be using that larger hole. Alright, so we're going to install this rod. Now, to see the raised detail on the rod there, that needs to go downward. As shown in the instructions. So downward is actually going to be like that. And we're going to line it up to that component right there and put an IM screw into that. Okay, that screw is in. I left it just a little bit loose. Now we're going to get the longer rod, same thing, the larger hole on that rod with that protrusion facing downward, and that's going to go right there with the same type of screw as before. Okay, both screws are in, and you can see the rods are loose, able to move around, but that's what it looks like. Next, I'm going to install these hubs, and they are marked with a left and a right. You can see that. Same with these rods here. This would be the left side and the right side. I'm going to line up the left rod with the left hub, and that's going to go down just like that. And we're going to line this up on the axle. So that's going to go through on the axle just like that. And an MM screw goes into that. We'll line this up and put an IM screw to hold that together right there. IM screw is installed, and it's not tight, it's loose a little bit, so it can still turn. That's how that looks. I'll go ahead and do the other side, and I'll be right back. Alright, so the other side is assembled, just like we did before. Now lastly, we have to put in 2 more screws on those hubs underneath. We put in the LM screw right there, and on the other side. I'll be right back. LM screw right there, and LM screw right there. And that completes stage 18. Let's head over and get started on stage 19. Here are the parts for stage 19. Fitting the left rear leaf spring. Let's get a closer look. Alright, GM, CM screws. Here's our leaf spring, left rear, very nice, and some of the hangers for it. Alright, we're going to install these hangers. We have 2 different hangers here. You can see we're going to take this one, and that's going to go on this side, and the other hanger will be going on the front, I believe. So we're going to install that with CM screws. And the front hanger looks like that, goes on that. Same thing, install that with CM screws. And there you go. Front one is installed, and the back one. Next we'll install this leaf spring hinge, and you'll note that there's a longer and shorter side to it. Put the longer side through the perch, spring perch, just like that. Then we'll take our spring hinge bracket. We're going to insert that through the CM screw, and we're going to mount that to that. There we go. Don't want to cross thread it in there. That's lined up there, and we're going to put one more screw in a little bit later when we mount our spring to that. Bring over my spring here. You can see we have a small opening on this side versus the large. The large will go back here, and that will insert on that spring perch, and we'll bring up that bracket on the other side and put another CM screw into that. And you can see how that looks there. Looks good. Now we'll line it up to the front spring perch, and we'll put our screw in for that. I believe it is a GM screw for that. And we'll thread the GM screw through this bracket all the way through to the other side. It's actually threading in on the front part versus the back part. But you can see I am bringing it in from the outside inward. You can see that. There we go. That's how that looks. So that completes stage 19. Let's head over and get started on stage 20. Here's the parts for stage 20. We have the leaf spring for the right hand side, rear right hand side. Let's get a closer look. Here's those parts, GM, CM screw. We have our right leaf spring for the rear of the Jeep, and our hangers. I'm not going to take you step by step through this. We already just did this in stage 19, so I'm going to come back with it fully assembled. Okay, so the leaf spring is fully installed just like we did for stage 19. So that completes stage 20. Let's head over and get started on stage 21. Here's the parts for stage 21, fitting the rear axle. Let's get a closer look. NM screws, the 2 rear clip plates, and our rear axle made of metal. And just like I said before, the weakest point for these axles to be able to put weight on them are where these screw holes go through. So we're going to do this just like we did before, using some super glue to reinforce everything. And you can see these clips are marked with a left and a right. Okay, we're going to work on the right side first with this clip here. It's going to go down just like that with the hole and leading towards the back of the car. We're going to take our axle here, and we're going to have the pumpkin area, the differential, on the shorter side. It's going to go through and line up with our spring on the bottom. We're going to put our NM screw right through the middle and secure that down. Okay, we got that installed, keeping it loose for now. We're going to go ahead and put the other screw on the other side. Now we're going to leave that a little loose because we want to put those U-hooks, the U-brackets on here. But I need to bring that in just a little more. That completes stage 21. Let's head over and do the final stage for this video, stage 22. Stage 22, we're going to work on fitting the rear shock absorbers. That's these right here. And let's get a closer look. There's a close-up of those parts, and of course these are the rear shocks, PM and FM screws, and this is the parts for the Bagnold sun compass. And I'm not going to take you through the steps on installing these shocks. We've already done that previously in this video. If you want to go back to stage 16, and I show you how to do that in that particular section of this video. Okay, so our shock absorbers are installed just like we did in stage 16. That's what they look like there, both sides. Now let's go ahead and assemble that Bagnold sun compass. Alright, the first two parts to go together are these right here, and you can see there's like a half moon shape just like that, and we want to go ahead and insert that from above. You can see the detail here, and that must go down all the way just like that. And next we'll take the bracket here. This will mount on top of that with the nut on the bottom, and we'll continue on with the half moon insertion just like that. Great. Take our rod, insert that in there. That's what that looks like there. And we will push that in on the top here. There we go. Okay, so it's pushed in on the top just like that, and our Bagnold sun compass is complete. That completes stage 22. I'll be right back. And there you go. That completes pack 3 for the Agora models British SAS Jeep. Did a lot here. Pretty much have the suspension completed. We still need to finish up in the next pack. We should receive the differential for the rear axle. But that looks great. And I hope some of my tips helped you out in building this. And so stay tuned for pack 4. I do have it on hand, so that will be coming out very shortly. So with that, if you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Happy modeling, everybody, and take care.